I'll start with a very warm good afternoon to all the four panelists and the audience members who have taken time from their busy schedules to participate in this webinar. For this, I'll be the moderator of the session. I'll give a very brief introduction about myself. My name is Yash Srivastav, and I'm currently working as a research manager at Sambodhi. I have been active part of the projects working in the areas of climate resilient agriculture, natural farming, and sustainable food systems. Before we go ahead, I wish to express my deep gratitude to all the panelists for accepting the invitation to speak at the first seminar organized by the Center for Resilient Agriculture and Food Systems at Sambodhi Research and Communications Private Limited. This is the first in series of webinar planned around the paradigm of sustainable agriculture and food systems. The title for today's webinar is Role of Natural Farming in Increasing Farmers' Income and Agricultural Sustainability. Before we begin our panel discussion, I'd like to take a moment to briefly set the context for today's conversation on natural farming, which lies at the heart of our discussion. Since the Green Revolution, Indian agriculture has largely relied on high external inputs, particularly chemical fertilizers, to boost productivity. While this approach brought short-term gains, recent years have exposed its limitations, especially for small and marginal farmers. Rising input costs, coupled with stagnating yields, have squeezed profit margins and raised concern about long-term sustainability. In response, there have been a growing shift towards natural farming and sustainable agricultural practices, which prioritizes reducing cultivation cost while also maintaining soil health and ensuring stable productivity. What began as a voluntary effort by individual farmers has gained significant momentum through community-led approaches, particularly in the states like Andhra Pradesh. At the core of natural farming are the key principles like Amrutams in terms of Bijamritam, Jivamritam, Kashayas, and Achadanas, which have been lately complemented by practices like pre-monsoon dry sowing. Further, we are witnessing a growing awareness among the farmers about eco-friendly nutrient and pest management techniques, which is a clear shift towards the sustainable methods. Given the need of the hour, the Government of India and many state governments are actively promoting NF through various support schemes. However, with the adoption of natural farming and SAPs, which is very encouraging in the recent past, it still requires a lot of discussion, which will help us understand the challenges and the overall adoption paradigm on a larger scale. This involves the discussion around institutional structures, the science behind natural farming, and how we can integrate it with the social capital and field data in terms of making it a dominant paradigm in the agricultural space. With this context in place, we can now turn to our four expert panelists, Mrs. Rajeshwari ma'am, Mr. Muralidhar sir, Dr. Ajay Kumar Mishra, and Dr. Sai Kumar, who will explore this theme from multiple angles, like economic, ecological, institutional, and social, and help us understand how natural farming can be scaled in a way that is not only viable, but truly transformative for our egg farming communities. However, before we begin, or rather, before I hand it over to my panelist, I would just take a couple of minutes to briefly introduce today's panel. Our first panelist is Mrs. Rajeshwari, who is currently the director heading the Rural Livelihood Vertical of the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India. She has studied an international masters in rural development as an Erasmus Mundus Fellow in European University and joined us with rich work experience working in various national and international organizations like GIZ, UNDP at the administrative level. Until recently, she headed the project management unit as a director of HADP projects, Department of Agriculture in Jammu and Kashmir. She has designed policy documents on gender mainstreaming, agriculture, aspect for GIZ, UNDP, World Bank, and the government of Jammu and Kashmir. Our second panelist for the day is Mr. Muralidhar, who is a senior advisor for integration, resources, strategy, scaling, and system at APCNF, RYSS. As an alumnus of IRMA and NIT Warangal, Mr. Muralidhar is widely recognized for his exceptional public service and contribution to social impact. With a rich journey spanning civil society, philanthropy, and the government, he has played a pivotal role in shaping people's collectives, livelihoods, enterprises, and natural farming movements. Notably, he co-led the National Rural Livelihood Mission with UNDP and the Government of India, where he mentored more than 1 lakh livelihood professionals and 1,000 plus institutions. He is also the architect of Integrated True Livelihood Framework and a co-author of Akshara Livelihoods. He continues to inspire us with academic writing and seen as a thought leader in the development space. Our third panelist for today is Dr. Ajay Kumar Mishra, who is an environmental and ecological scientist by training and currently serves as a regenerative agriculture expert at the International Rice Research Institute, Varanasi. With over 12 years of experience at leading international research institutions, he has spent the last 4 years of IRI, where he has led and implemented cutting edge research trials on soil health, GHG emissions, site specific nutrient management across diverse agroecologies in India. Dr. Mishra has played a key role not only in research, but also in the outreach and dissemination of sustainable farming practices to stakeholders and farming communities. Our fourth panelist for the day is Dr. Sai Kumar, who is an agricultural economist and a rural development expert with more than 12 years of experience in evaluation focused on regenerative agriculture, sustainable practices, climate change, natural resource management, and microfinance. He has been an alumnus of Erasmus Mundus and a DAD fellow, contributed as a DAD Young Ambassador, and was recognized as a CIM returning expert by GIZ. He has been involved in projects focusing on impact assessment, evaluation, process monitoring, and scaling research. Dr. Sai Kumar has worked for projects commissioned by USAID, World Bank, DMGF, German Development Bank, GIZ, and several state governments and the Government of India. With the brief introduction of all our panelists, I would like to move on to the first speaker for the day, which is Mr. Muradhar sir. Sir, to begin with, we have seen your vast experience and work across the years with RYSS and APCNF implementation. With that experience, we would like to take your help in understanding the foundational elements of what make natural farming viable and necessary. Apart from the sustainable ecological practices which are well known, but apart from that, what is the economic and institutional perspective to this? And in your opinion, what are the key enablers and barriers to this entire paradigm? With this, I hand it over to Mr. Muradhar sir for your words.
Good afternoon. I just think that your question is very interesting, but to all my audience and my fellow people traveling in the natural farming journey, I think all of you might be aware natural farming is understood by us. Probably all of you join hands with me in understanding the same. It is farming in harmony with the nature. It is 365-day green cover, multi-layered, multiple crops without chemicals, and it is economically and ecologically viable option available. It is able to answer multiple crises we are facing in the farmers crisis, farm crisis, consumer crisis, and soil crisis and planet crisis. And our endeavor is to make natural farming as a default option for farming in the world. Okay, that's the broad understanding of natural farming. If you look at the critical points, as I was saying, the 365-day green cover, multi-layered multiple crops, no chemical usage, synthetic chemical usage. It is working towards a local food system for people and animals, and to able to bring in local value chain system. And we have well known 9 principles, universal principles of natural farming. So that those are the critical elements. And who will do this? We thought farmers, generally recognized as farmers because they own the land most of the time. We learned that it is not men, it is women and their spouses. That's the way the farming is done. So they are critical. And if they come on board, then natural farming will go forward. The critical enablers would be we are able to visualize models suitable to particular farming situation. Every farming situation requires a model that is suitable to them. We figured out pre-monsoon dry sowing, A-grade models, anytime money models, drought proofing models. So several models customized to local situations. That is one. And corresponding package and practices. How do you go about telling them? Maybe videos, maybe material. But the second one is the women groups and their federations. And if they start following Sapta Sutra, then natural farming will go forward. The third enabler is peer, best practitioner natural farmer. We call them community resource persons. If they are there, if they help in farming planning, if they help in handholding, if they help in troubleshooting, if they help in training on stimulant preparations, etc., then they'll go forward. So that's the third enabler. The fourth one is the trigger. Why I would like to enter into natural farming in the first place? Self-consumption, family consumption, local nutrition. That seems to be the first trigger. The second trigger is consumers want it, and therefore you want to supply to them. So you. And the fourth trigger is fifth trigger is will the community take charge of natural farming? Community in charge? Can community, particularly women's agency, operate or not? If that happens, then the natural farming goes forward. The fifth enabler is whether are we able to get in some eco credits, carbon credits. Probably that will help. And important one is extension system. Extension system that is able to say that natural farming is good. At least keep quiet on chemical farming. That will help. Curriculums of agriculture. Do they incorporate natural farming big way or not? So these are the enablers. And critically, instead of working on a single farmer, single farm family, single farm, can we work with a village as a whole to move towards natural farming, area as a whole towards natural farming, district as a whole, state as a whole. That will help. And the new scheme that has come national mission on natural farming, probably second phase will start happening from 26. That will be able to trigger further growth in the scale in the natural farming. The recently announced, we are waiting for it to be uh, given out physically, PM Pranam. If the government of India is able to offer subsidy amount saved on chemicals to states, I think states also will take this forward in a big way. The last enabler is the clear benefits that are able to come from natural farming. Costs are lower, yields are not compromised even in the first year. Returns are better, nutrition is better, nutrition intensity is there, nutrition diversity is as possible, soils are improving, agency of small and marginal farmers and their women is increasing, resilience of the to floods, to droughts, to floods, to cyclones is happening. It is also able to resilience against pests and diseases. And it is also able to help in cooling the surface, therefore cooling the planet in the scale happens in a big way. But some of the problems I see them, some of the barriers I see that addiction is a natural chemical farming is an addiction. Getting out of addiction is a big behavioral issue. It takes a long time. System is operating in two tanks. They talk both chemical farming and natural farming on the same tenor. So we need to really fight that battle. Can the one tongue be silenced or not? Then the large farmers particularly are particularly worried about labor in the initial days. After 4 or 5 years, the labor issue may go off, but first 4 or 5 years they are fighting the battle, saying labor is the issue, labor is the issue. That is another issue we need to tackle as we go along. I stop here just to tell you that there is a good augury. We are going forward. We are with 1 million farmers already in Andhra Pradesh. Maybe one of the good examples of scale in the country, in the world. Whereas if you 5 million, 6 million farmers are there, about 1 million are in Andhra Pradesh in India. So natural farming farmers. So good augury, good way forward. And in the coming 10 years, inshallah, we should be able to touch base at least 20% of the farmers, and we should be able to enter into half of the villages if NMNF and other efforts of the governments and civil society and CSR all join hands. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that insightful exploration of the economic and ecological grounding of the natural farming. And that has actually built a very strong base for us to understand that what could be the enablers and barriers when we talk about the entire paradigm of natural farming in Andhra Pradesh specifically and in general from the Indian perspective. Definitely, I know there will be a lot of questions. Audience is always free to add questions to the chat, which we can take up in the later part of the discussion. Moving on, let's now turn to how science can support and strengthen this approach on a larger scale. With that question, I would move to Dr. Ajay for his insights. Dr. Ajay, given your vast experience in the science and research behind regenerative agriculture, I wish to understand from you that what are the general perceptions there is a general perception about natural farming in terms of it being primitive or traditional. Given that there are pure proven benefits of natural farming, how do you think that science-led approach can help to validate, scale, and institutionalize NF practices, especially in India, where we have a diverse agroclimatic zones, and each diverse zone brings its own set of challenges and points of discussion. So, with that question, I would hand it over to Dr. Ajay.
I think we are 70 plus people. That means the audience towards natural farming, they really want to see what is happening in the globe and as well as how India is taking the lead on. There are gaps and still I think we need to address those gaps through proper science and proper investigation for the evidence for these natural farming systems. What I'm going to give you a sort of idea on basically 4 pillars. First, the productivity side, then the profitability, and then the socio-economics that drives the overall lever of the system. Now, coming to the production side, if you see, still we doesn't know what kind of variety is going to work under these emerging systems. How we work on the crop, which cropping system is better into it. Then what should be the way of controlling the weed into the system? What should be the uneven crop growth mechanism to make it uniform? So those are some of the challenges that need to be addressed, and we are working together to have like these things workable. In terms of profitability, if you see, so if there are 2 ways to improve the profitability. The one is increase, which difficult till we do not have that kind of low input responsive varieties are available. And the second one is reduced cost of cultivation. So how do we reduce the cost of cultivation? I think in that way, organic or natural farming is offering that kind of potential to have it. Coming to the protections, if you see, so one of the evidence from Andhra Pradesh, while we are project in with RYSS over there, we find that the GHG reduction under the natural farming is around 30%, which is really a good move for tackling the climate change through these kind of emerging practices. Heavy metals, if you see, yes, and their accumulation into the grain has reduced drastically under these systems. If I talk about soil health, so 100% ISAC, at ERI ISAC, the South Asia Regional Center of ERI. We have worked over there, and further research need to be done to understand the structural and functional diversity of these systems. Coming to agrobiodiversity, in terms of agrobiodiversity, these systems are working very well. The only thing is, how do we encast those agrobiodiversity in terms of monetary gains for the farmer? That we need to take care of. Coming to the socioeconomic shift, I think we need to come up with some of the indexes, like if some community is doing organic or natural farming, do we have some indices that their health index has improved? And can we come up with some sort of farmers happiness index with those kind of adoption of farming practices? So that we need to take care of. And overall, I think what I totally agree with Muralidhar sir is, like, we need to have an enabling ecosystem for taking this forward. Conducive policy, institutional infrastructure, and overall shift into the educational reform is required, while the agricultural students should learn what works area for these kind of farming practices to have better understanding and taking it forward as a practice, as a holistic practice. One instance, if you see, we find natural farming at Varanasi is, while we use natural farming along the burnt crops as well as ecological engineering principles into the insect and pest attack. So what I can say for now is the farmer's mindset need to be changed through proper training and seeing is believing kind of methodology. And that can only be happened once we have a closed connectivity loop. I think it's one of the major to do it through networking among those who are interested in the shift from the conventional to kind of emerging farming practices. I thank Sambodhi for taking this initiative. I thank the people, those who are interested in understanding what these systems are and how the transitioning in India is going to happen. And I personally believe that we are the leaders for this kind of transformational farming. So while paving the way forward, we need to have right evidence into the place so that it can be transitional shift is in easier way can be achieved. Thank you, yes, for giving this opportunity. Yeah, to you, yes.
Thanks a lot, Ajay sir. That was like a lot of thought-provoking points, frankly. Apart from the four pillars, I think something which we have discussed through multiple projects is like how we can actually come up with the non-tangible things in terms of happiness, as you talked about farmers' happiness, and in terms of health, which are kind of the offshoots of this entire transition, and which at times is overlooked when we discuss the benefits of natural farming. But thank you for bringing out those points, sir. With that in place, I would want to move on to the next speaker, Dr. Sai Kumar. Dr. Sai, given that you have worked across multiple projects in the MEL experience at Sambodhi, which has been across multiple geographies and projects, I wish to understand from you that how do you see the social capital, institutional linkages, and reliable field data working together, and why this integration is critical for the scalability and sustainability of NF paradigm? I wish to understand. So when I'm talking about these three components of scalability, sustainability, and institutional linkages, I wish to expand. I wish for you to expand on the projects across or experiences across Andhra Pradesh or multiple states like Karnataka, Maharashtra, where you have worked actively on many projects. So handing over to Dr. Sai.
Thank you, Yash. I think you have given me three important aspects which are vital USPs for any project to be successful and sustainable in the long run. the first dimension which you told is social capital. Yes, social capital is an important tangible resource which is abundant among the rural households. Maybe because of their long-standing ancestral social ties or deep-rooted neighborhood networks. But most of the time, their importance is not realized by the rural households, or nor the required effort is put by
Dr.
governments
Sai,
or
I
the
think we have lost your voice.
strategically tapped.
Sorry
Okay.
to come in and interrupt you, but we lost your voice for brief 5 seconds. So can you just,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm talking about social capital. Basically, if both government and stakeholders, if they strategically put an effort to tap the social capital, especially in terms of using that capital for adoption of new technologies, for mass dissemination of any new innovations, then it can become a success story and can become an exemplary model. Several of such exemplary models now have become history. For example, it can be Ecovida agroecological network from Brazil, or rural participatory extension system of Africa, or it can be milk cooperatives which are functioning in India, few states of India, or microcredit groups of Bangladesh, or not last not the least, the self-help group concept of India, which is initially started for weekly savings and collateral-free loans, but has worked out successfully across India, and now they have become the foremost village-level platforms for any kind of reach outs. It can be implementation of development projects, or it can be for educational purpose. That's how the social capital, the projects where the social capital has been successfully tapped, have become history if you look back. Uh, and We all know that Andhra Pradesh is one of the pioneer state in India, which has made a landmark achievement in terms of self-help group concept, and has reached saturation in terms of its outreach, and the same collective potential of self-help group concept has been now tapped, and now that is streamlined to promote adoption of natural farming in Andhra Pradesh through community-based approach. Especially the village level organizations are involved. The village organizations are nothing but the cluster of self-help groups. Now, this social capital tapped through VOs has made such an impact at the global level, where AP has been recognized for its scale of adoption of NF and practice by the women farmers, especially. That's how a social capital make an impact when a project has been implemented with the social capital lens. What are the social capital attributes? Mainly, it's mutual trust, cohesion, and solidarity, which exist among the rural households. So basically, if the when it has been trapped, it is a huge energy. Actually, it's an immense force to keep that force streamlined. We need a strong institutional framework which can be sustained in the long run for smooth execution of any project. So presently, and these institutions, when they are developing to implement or execute a project, the institutional framework should be amicable and crafted based on the farmers' needs, which just now Murli sir was sharing. We have to give priorities for farmers' field level challenges, to address the farmers' field level challenges. And one such experience, if we see in the millennial, just before the millennial, during 90s, it can be farmers' field school concept, where farmers' social capital and the institutional framework has been molded, and it has become a great success during 90s in Asian countries. Similarly, nature positive farming in all oil palm landscapes of Indonesia. So all these are true examples for integration of institutional linkages with the farmer level platforms, grassroots level platforms, basically, which has led to great and sustained impact. If we deep dive more into the natural farming, presently in India, about more than 14 states are active in promoting natural farming through NCNF coalition. However, only we can, if you see the progress, it can be witnessed only in one or two states. Of them, are definitely AP is one of the pioneer state. And if we deep dive and check what is the reason behind this landmark achievement in AP, the key reasons are, even Murli sir was touching upon that. I am telling from the social capital perspective, the tapping of immense social capital wherein the one of the village member were made as a grassroots level staff called community resource persons. This person is coming from the SSG itself. That women member will be a part of SSG. They will be residing in the village, and they are giving the handholding support and disseminating the NF related activities to the farmers in the in their field. So because of which farmers will have more confidence on that person because of the trust and solidarity they have with that farmer. And the second important aspect is like the innovations which APCNF has been bringing since its inception, I can say, such as like champion farmers, farmer scientist concept, or high grade models. So all these innovations which are very much dynamic are attracting farmers to adopt more and more natural farming. Hence, what I want to say is like in nutshell, it's not just creating an institutional framework, but the intensity and the intention behind building these institutional linkages with the grassroots level platforms, such as it can be SHGs or FPOs. It makes a strong bridging platform where the farmers' priorities, needs, and challenges were addressed, and definitely aligning to the basic principles of NF or without deviating from the NF principles. And the third aspect which you have given to me is the robust field data. Yes, for whenever there is a large scale intervention is implemented, or in terms of long term projects, process monitoring and assessments are very much important. And if they are executed with a clearly defined and concrete plan and with a well thought M&D framework, then effortlessly the data itself will speak. No need for researchers or the agencies to defend the results and its impact. Data itself will do its justice in terms of telling the story about its outcome and the impact of the intervention. One such example I want to quote from our recent experience of Sambodhi is like Pokhara project, Maharashtra Climate Resilient project, which we closed last year. And it was a very long-term project where we conducted 10 concurrent monitoring rounds along with baseline, midline, and endline. In that natural farming project has been one of the most important component implemented through the FPO platforms. FPOs are another grassroots level platforms developed based on the social capital collective at the village level, which is nowadays we can say the new generation platforms after SHGs. So in this Pokhara project, the data was so robustly maintained, and the data itself was so evident, where we could clearly narrate the story to the funding agencies and to the farmers as well as to the practitioners that how natural farming helped in reducing the cost of cultivation without deviating or without declining from the yield when compared to the conventional plot. So basically, if we have a robust data plan in place, and if the data quality is and the accuracy of data is maintained, then data itself will do its justice for the impact created, and without much effort. This is what I want to convey. So there is a definitely strong interlinkage between social capital, institutional linkages, and field data. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sai, for sharing your insights. At the same time, highlighting the importance which the grassroots networks in terms of institutions, they are extremely important in terms of building onto the program which is catering to farming or agriculture in that domain. Apart from that, your insights about the social capital, which exactly needs to be tapped. I think that is one of the differences between the success of few projects and the other project which may have not met the kind of success they wanted to meet, and the field insights in terms of data and how it can act as a feedback loop. So thank you for all those insights, Dr. Sai. Moving on, building on to this, I would bring in the final speaker, and with the idea of getting a deeper insight into the role of institutions and how they can be designed to support farmer-centric, equitable, and scalable natural farming systems. With this, I would like to bring Mrs. Rajeshwari, ma'am. Ma'am, the question I have for you is that given that you are currently the director of Rural Livelihoods Vertical at the MORT, and you have worked with agriculture departments like Jammu and Kashmir government, I wish to understand from you that how can state policy help shape the future of farming in India, and with the context of natural farming and other sustainable models like organic farming, which are not just in terms of adoption but also in terms of meeting the needs of the farmers. So with that, I'll hand it over to Rajeshwari ma'am.
Thank you, Yash. Thank you, Sambodhi, also, and for this webinar and very important aspect. I would like to say that I have worn all sort of hats. Whatever, it was very enriching to listen to the previous speakers. I have the experience of a researcher, practitioner, and now being a policy maker. It is very important to listen to the sector experts for us to sit here and form the policies. First thing. Second thing, what I would like to say is natural farming is a very important aspect for government of India. And also, first, what I would like to clarify is we practitioners, what we do, so-called experts, we find thrilling or whatever to coin new terms. Sometimes we say it is organic farming, it is sustainable farming, it is regenerative farming, what not, agroecological practices. And then few years before it was decided that we will go with a safer word of sustainable farming. So that cannot be too much stringent like organic farming. So first of all, it is okay to sit at a theoretical level and make all these definitions. But as a practitioner, as a state level implementation people, how do they find real difference between all these things is very important. That is what I am able to like face the challenge. We have to work with the states and we have to say what is organic farming, what is natural farming. By end of the day, if you go to the ground, the farmer will be doing what he's doing. So this is one thing. First thing, what you asked is a state policy. Agriculture is a state policy and how we can help. I have prepared a short PPT to help with understanding. If I can share that.
Definitely, ma'am.
So natural farming, we all know. I thought this webinar initially it is not a webinar but in person hoga. So I wanted to pose this question to audience: what is the major difference between natural farming and organic farming? So why this new term is being coined? So natural farming, we know we have been hearing to ZBNF this Suresh Palekar's method. Even while I was in Germany, we got to meet Suresh Palekar ji. He was felicitated in many platforms. So what we say is it's chemical-free ecological farming method using locally available bio inputs where farmer need not buy anything from out of his farm. The major intention is to reduce the budget or the cost what he is investing in his farming. So how DNRLM plays a role? We have a flagship program to uplift rural poor by promoting self-employment and sustainable livelihoods, our forte. So how we are accommodating natural farming is what I wanted to talk about. And how we integrate, we promote agroecological practices via community institutions. Already Dr. Sai has briefly touched how social capital through SAGs can be leveraged to promote natural farming. So basically how, because there is also a part what you asked on institutional mechanism, how the institutional support should be provided to promote natural farming. So in also in Ministry of Agriculture as well as in Ministry of RD, what is the pattern we are we have a cluster. First we form a cluster in a community and with a member strength of 125 to around 180. And the cluster is being supported with 2 Krishi Sakis. So Krishi Sakis are basically the community resource persons, the Didis, who are trained, given the specialized training of 58 days in batches. We give her all necessary training how to conduct this, help the farmers with sustainable farming things. So each cluster will have these 2 Krishi Sakis. So the details you can read for yourself. And scientists and farm level monitoring team will regularly visit these non-farm clusters to provide them training. Because there was also a question like how, there was a point that how we will make it farmer centric. In the way to come, it should be whatever the schemes, it should be more of citizen centric, beneficiary centric and also farmer centric. So demonstration activities and support to interested farmers, we ensure that it is farmer centric model. And the target is to reach out to 18.7 lakh farmers directly, but In a spillover effect, we are aiming to reach out to 1 crore farmer. Matlab, these 18.75 lakh will speak to 6 farmers, each of them, so that there is a spillover of the information on natural farming, and the total reach out would be to 1 crore farmers in the country. So, as already said, it's a mass movement what we are planning to through Jan Bhagidari, where there is sufficient space for involvement of farmers in the entire level of this running and owning this natural farming, what we say, Prakratik Kheti. So, to talk about the numbers and some stats, area under natural farming, the aim is to reach out to 7.5 lakh hectares across 15,000 clusters in the Gram Panchayat level pe. And already Mr. Murlidhar or someone said that okay, I'll come to that point later. So number of clusters to be reached out is 15,000 clusters we need to form. This is the second year. So already natural farming began in the year 2024 and it is running for just 2 years. It will end in the March 2026, but it will be postponed. That is the internal talks in ministry level. And at the same time, organic farming will also end in the March 2026. So there is a thought that recently I had a presentation also in the minister level after my visit to Germany, where I said that this creates confusion in the community. So this organic farming would be merged with natural farming, or there will be just one farming system which is going to be promoted. There would be no much confusion. That is one thing to inform the sector specialists. So as already I said, 18.75. The target is to train 30,000 this extension workers, Krishi Sakis, and 2 per cluster will be working. So another important aspect of this natural farming is bio input resource centers. So this resource center will be is budgeted for every cluster level pe BRC banega with a budget of 1 lakh per BRC. So these, to say the crucial points for promoting this natural farming would be, I would like to say first would be establishment of this bio-research centers. Second would be crop-specific interventions. And the big elephant in the room is marketing. Marketing and certification. So certification system is the next one. How we for organic farming, now we have NCONF certifying the products. And we have PGS system also, but ये जो अपेडा की ICS system है, that is not serving the purpose of exporting to European countries. Again, it is becoming internal only. So something needs to be, when we say natural farming and the promotion of it, this is a very important area where we need to do some sort of research and streamlining of the certification process to be kept in place. And so 10th point is on branding. So how we could see in European countries, there is many brands, like we can see Dula, we can see Farm, Life Farm, or many such brands, which they have national level of significance and also the identity is there. So ऐसा brand बनाने की बहुत जरूरत है. And market convergence. So integration with local farmers, we already have our pharma organizations, FPOs, PGs. Through them, how we can aggregate the produce and then link them to the various marketing channels, institutional buyers. So implementation architecture, as I already explained, first we start with identification of farmers, then training through NARM, NCNF, they are our partners. And through NCONF, we conduct exposure visits. Then bio input resource centers will be there to help them with good agriculture practices, what we call GAP, and demonstration भी हो सकता वहाँ पे होगा demo units, and bio resource centers will also be there for the same thing. So this I will skip, and this is some data for you to check with. We are present in 12 states. Natural farming is being, we are implementing it across 12 states. You can see the states where we are all present. So the target to train the Krishi Sakhis, I would like to say, in first cohort, we have been successful in attaining the target. 70,021 Krishi Sakhis are well trained in manage, and we have also given them the certificate. So this was already discussed by all the speakers. Ki what are the benefits of natural farming? It will reduce the cost, it will reduce the budget, higher net returns. It will definitely contribute to building resilience towards climate changes. It creates market linkages, and soil and water conservative practices can be promoted. And all of them spoke about Andhra Pradesh also, but we along with Andhra Pradesh, many other states, what we are working, Sikkim, in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, we have many replicable models, proven successful models, which I'll be discussing. So this is, I thought I should give a little bit of clarity on what exactly is ZBNF, organic farming and regenerative agriculture. Because NRLM in-house scheme, what we have is on AEP, agroecological practices, which is regenerative agriculture. But again, there is a lot of confusions how there are various schemes also to support ZBNF, to support organic farming. So I personally feel all these things should be merged so that the implementation at grassroots level becomes easier. So way forward and recommendations would be like practitioners who are in this meeting to scale through DNRLM platforms is one ideal platform. But along with it, what I feel is Dr. Sai emphasized social capital, matlab the SHG groups. Along with that, I feel Ministry of Agriculture ka institutional framework should also be strengthened as well as well utilized, because whatever the CRPs, excuse me, they can support the implementation, but along with that, the extension workers of Ministry of Agriculture, jo hai, Atma workers, their way of working should also be strengthened, and develop local value chains and promote convergence. Convergence is the new mantra. You might have heard whole of government approach in many platforms. So government is pushing for, regardless of any ministry, how we can achieve the targets or the objectives. So whether the work is being taken up by Ministry of Agriculture or RD, Government of India is not bothered much, but the work should get moving. So convergence is the new mantra with NAREGA, with watershed programs. How we can work in tandem, we need to explore and support research and validation. That is very important, how R&D can support this. And also I got to hear from Mr. Murlidhar or someone who spoke earlier, how science can pitch in to scale this natural farming implementations and also bring awareness, and how science can back up to show that the yield levels, that is the major fear of farmers. When we talk to them to begin with natural farming, the first question they come up is, or the fear is, the loss of yield. So how science can back this up and show and demonstrate to farmers that their yields would not be compromised. And one more aspect is my international exposure to natural farming and the experience with the other countries. So recently I was in, I lived in Germany for a long time, in Europe also. But as per my recent visit to Switzerland and Germany as a policymaker from India, what I got to see and understand is agriculture is more than food production in EU. It is more of a family business. It is a way of life. And the thrust given upon agriculture is more towards sustainability rather than they perceive to it as a money-making business thing. And more thrust is given upon sustainability, green economy, agro-tourism. During our stay also, we could visit many of the agro-touristic places, and we got to see that how they are promoting the places to create awareness among people about how the crops are being grown, how the livestock is being taken care of. So this is just a glimpse I wanted to share. And recently we got to interact with China also. It is very interesting to understand the Chinese model of rural development along with farming, because we cannot whole and soul deal with natural farming in silos. It should be a part of a larger picture of rural development. So how China has dealt with it under the larger ambit of rural development is very interesting. So I thought I'll share this slide with you, focused on infrastructure, how they began first with building stronger and stable infrastructure first, putting it in place in 2000. They shifted towards institutional reforms, environmental protection, and urban-rural integrations. From 2010 to 2020's emphasis was on poverty reduction through sustainable agriculture. They have built strong value chain networks, agribusiness. So when we speak about farming, it's just not with farming, but how agribusiness can be put in place. So here you can see how generation wise they have quoted just 4 years as one generation from 2014 to 2018, 13 to 20. You can read for yourself value chain and value addition, and the trust is also more on low carbon and circular agriculture in China. Alcohol. And various rural transformation models are like they are giving more thrust on industrialization approach, but keeping in view the sustainability aspect as well. So this township and village enterprises, along with what I mean to highlight here is, along with production, what is important to sustain all our efforts is to give an entrepreneurial outlook for the natural farming. How we can market the produce, how we can get that premium price for the farmers. These are very important to sustain our efforts. Otherwise, by end of the day, what farmers are interested is how much money they will be making by end of the day. So all these things, what we say are unfelt needs. If we may speak many things about climate change, about the adoption, about nutritional contribution, everything. But those are not felt needs. Those are classified under unfelt, and they will not be immediately catching the interest of farmers. So for that, we need to give this an entrepreneurial touch, and we need to create stronger value chains so that the farmers feel like adopting this.
Ma'am actually touched upon a lot of important points in terms of how NRLM has been actively operating in this space in terms of creating Krishi Sakhis and targeting farmers in terms of their training, and then moving on to the overall adoption of the program in terms of natural farming and organic farming and sustainable practices in general. I think with that we have had very informative insights from all the four speakers. And with that, we have actually touched upon very diverse factors in terms of how agriculture, or rather natural farming as a domain, has existed in this already dominated paradigm of chemical farming, and how we can take it forward. Uh, Before we move on to any further discussion, I would want all the four speakers, starting from Murli sir, followed by Ajay sir, and then Dr. Sai and Mrs. Rajeshwari, to conclude with your follow-up statements. So I hand it over to Murli sir.
But my critical point I want to say is that natural farming is the need of the hour, urgent. It can't wait. And it is not a option choice in the sense it's going to cost us, therefore we are doing it. It is beneficial to us in a variety of ways. Costs are lower for the farmers. Yields don't drop even in the first year if they adopt to complete 365-day green cover, multi-layered, multiple crops. Returns are going to be higher. See, I also in the presentation I introduced the models, example models, how the model can be 365 days and how they can get money from intercrops, burnt crops, and how do you keep the soil covered entire 365 days. I given some examples that are happening, and not one or two, which are being done with a good number of farmers out of the million farmers. So large data is available there. Cropping intensity goes up from 1 to 2, more than 2. Land equivalent ratio goes up. fallow lands become unfallowed, diversity increases. Higher bricks is a measure which indicates the better photosynthesis, so better health of the plant. So higher bricks values and lower temperatures on the surface, which will mean if you have done natural farming on scale, we will have a cooler planet. So therefore, we really need to do this, and the number is not small. Already 300,000 farmers have got into natural farming, 365-day green cover. More than a million are already doing it. So therefore, experience is there. Variety of experiences, not one side, one type, rain-fed, irrigated, tribal areas, hilly areas. Variety of them are available, and they need to be adapted to local situations and used. And I also think as a ROSS, we'll be able to be a role model. We show it on the scale in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh comes up as a role model state, and we are able to help in seeding natural farming across the country. We are already present in 18 states in supporting seeding. We don't implement in other states, but we help others who do the implementation by seeding support. We also have 55 countries visiting us, and we already started working in Zambia, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia. More countries can come up. Need of the hour, we can't ignore it. Urgency is there, and otherwise we'll face the Harappa Mohenjo-daro civilization situation. Natural farming is the way out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Muralidhar sir, for your closing remarks. I think we can move on to Dr. Sai for your closing words.
Thank you, Ash. So, just before I give my closing words, one real example I want to share. Just this week, Indian rice has been rejected by European Union and US because of higher chemical dosage, especially because the chemical fungicide used for rice blast or rottleneck disease. So most of the exported rice is going to come back soon to South India. But at the same time, as a part of Sambodhi's scope of work with APCNF, we are doing the crop sample analysis, crop residual analysis since 4 years. And many of our sample analyzed have the chemical residues less than the threshold level, less than the minimum standard defined. So matlab, by default, the natural farming produce, especially the seed to seed practiced plot, will have a produce which is up to the FSSAI standards, which can be of export quality. So not just reduces the cost of cultivation and with the stable yield, but it also addresses the quality issue and makes the produce eatable, like healthy produce. That's what I want to just share the field experience from our project. Now, coming to my wrap-up statements, basically, I want to say I strongly feel that for scalability and sustainability of any project, including natural farming, it cannot happen through a single factor. It has to happen with the multiple reinforcing factors such as social capital, institutional linkages, policy framework, as well as the field level evidences. So hence it has to the importance has to be given while crafting a project for all these dimensions. I just want to say without one of these dimensions, the other become very much fragile. Strong institutions without ground level social capital will lead to poor adoption. Strong social capital without data will push the policy, will limit the policy push. And similarly, data without institutional action becomes static evidence. Hence, there is a strong need to align social capital, institutional linkages, field data, quality, field level quality data, and the policy to go in convergence to encourage adoption of such large scale or in the implementation of such large scale project, so that we can fruitfully meet the expectation of national institutions, Ministry of Agriculture at the nation, as well as to meet the required conditions, criteria of international funding agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sai, for your closing remarks. Lastly, I would like to move on to Rajeshwari ma'am. Ma'am, could you please share your closing remarks for the session?
Just to wind up, if you ask me, like in 2015, I was called upon by Dantewada DC to Chhattisgarh mein to, they said it is a default organic state hai, district hai. You please, group of experts come and guide us on how to leverage our organic sector, how we can get our farmers premium price. तो ये सब हमने विजिट भी किया सारे डिस्कशंस होने के बाद आई वाज मूविंग आउट ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर ऑफिस इन द नेक्स्ट रूम आई कुड सी अ रूम full of fertilizers piled up. So this is the dichotomy of policy. What I feel is my voice is echoing. The contribution of the sector specialists, those who are working in various think tanks, I feel the contribution and the in policy capturing and policy framing, policy designing aspect is very crucial. So whenever we conduct any sort of brainstorming sessions, we would like to hear from sector specialists and the thing what is backed by your evidence-based advocacy rather than emotion-based, data-driven, as was already resonated by experts. So data-driven, evidence-based findings are very important, which can feed to policy making at government level is what I would like to reiterate and conclude my talk. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. With now we have actually heard from all our panelists and have a closing remark from them. Since we have already overshot the time, I can accommodate maximum one question from audience. So please, if anybody have any question, you can just quickly put in the chat box. If not, we can move to the conclusion and closure of the session. I personally have a couple of questions, but we actually have overshot the time, and I think next time onward, this is one of the feedbacks for us that we need maybe a longer sessions, because this entire domain is very diverse, and there are a lot of new developments happening with the passing of the time, and at the same time, there's a lot to discuss.
I think I could cover only 10%. Yes, as you're saying, it really needs day-long discussions because there are many aspects. We talk so much on natural farming. What I got to see in Europe is with all this level of publicity, awareness, 100% literacy rates, the production of organic is just less than 10%. Even the produce what we find in market is less than like 6-7%. So these are all some open questions we experts need to sit and discuss. What should be the strategy really for a country like India? They are like developed nations, so-called developed, and we are developing nations. So how much of the resources should be devoted for natural farming? How much of the resources should be devoted for conventional? Also, at the same time, taking care of food security in the country for a huge population like us. So these are all many rhetoric questions we have, open questions also. So natural farming brings along all these things, and it needs a deeper level of discussions. So if there is anything, any such questions, you can later on also mail me, and if you want any response from my side, I would be happy to do so.
Thank you, ma'am. That's actually going to be really helpful for me and many other people in the audience. So I would request the people in the audience to maybe keep on dropping the questions in the chat box, and that we can share with our panelists, and accordingly we can have some responses from them. With that, I would like to come to the conclusion of the session. I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers and participants for this enriching and a thought-provoking session. We have touched upon many important points around the domain of natural farming, while Murli sir discussed about the enablers and barriers in terms of how models are required, practices. We need to standardize the practices. At the same time, we have to keep on bringing in best performing farmers and use them as a role model. Moving on, Dr. Ajay discussed about the 4 pillars, where the idea was about how natural biodiversity and agro biodiversity also needs to be the focus, while we do emphasize on the cost of cultivation and in terms of profitability for the farmers. Dr. Sai touched upon the points in terms of how social capital is extremely important and how there is a need for trust in the system and among the farmers, and at the same time in the entire domain of natural farming for it to scale up. and how data from the field can feed into this policy making, and in terms of as a feedback loop in terms of achieving the overall objectives. Lastly, Rajeshwari ma'am touched upon how NRLM has been actively working in this domain in terms of training Krishi Sakhis, and how they have their plans to scale up the entire project, not in just terms of training, but how those 18 lakh farmers will be talking to 6 more farmers and bring it as a mass movement. Apart from that, the discussion has been around the profitability. So we always talk about how natural farming is good for sustainability in terms of restoring the ecological services. But at the end of the day, the practitioner or the adopter of these practices need to make profit out of it. And that is exactly why we need entrepreneurship activities in this entire domain, how they need to get profit out of this entire cultivation process. So, with that, I would like to thank everybody, all the panelists and participants who have been patiently listening to this entire session. I would further want to restate that this is the first webinar in the series of webinars which we plan to conduct as a Center for Resilient Agriculture and Food Systems at Sambodhi, where we want to bring this entire conversation around natural farming to the mainstream, so that it's not just seen as an option, but it is seen as a transformation that is possible, that has the potential, and that can become the future of the agricultural domain in India. So with that, I would like to close the session. Thank you again to all the panelists and the audience for joining.